we can ask Ylva Johansson, that's the EU Commissioner for Migration, who presented that long-awaited pact just last week. Today she'll be facing Home Affairs Ministers and Justice Affairs Ministers from all around the bloc, but virtually, in a virtual manner, due to COVID, of course. My first question is, countries like Hungary have already resisted the pact. So would this eventually see you changing your position when it comes to migration, Commissioner?
No, I have presented my proposal, and I must say that my impression is that the first reaction has been a sober consideration from the member states. So I'm looking forward to hear their views today. You know, I've been working very close with them in preparing this proposal. So, of course, I'm looking forward to work close with them also to get to an adoption of it.
Indeed, we know that you've been travelling all the European capitals in order to discuss it, of course, with them. But we saw last week members of the European Parliament discuss this pact, and they were critical that it panders a little bit to member states as opposed to the bigger issues, really, and that, you know, it doesn't go strong enough when it comes to sharing responsibility and solidarity.
Of course, there will be a lot of different views on this, and I worked also very close with the European Parliament in preparing this. And nobody is really satisfied with my proposal, and I think that's not a bad starting point, because I think also everybody can see it's a balanced proposal and it's a compromise, and I do think it's possible to have this as the ground for the new agreement.
And ahead of today's meeting, we've seen over 70 NGOs pen a very strong letter, putting more pressure on you, on your Mission Impossible. But there's also criticism because it focuses a lot, or too much, they argue, on securing borders and not, of course, on the humanitarian crisis. In people's hearts and minds are still very much those images of the Moria refugee camp a couple of weeks ago. So what would your message, Commissioner, be to NGOs tuning in and listening to this today?
This is not true. We have a very strong humanitarian angle in this proposal. We are standing up to defend the right to apply for asylum. We are doing new legislation to avoid pushbacks at borders. We are taking the real step that we should do search and rescue, and that those people should be disembarked on European soil with a strong mandatory solidarity. So I do not agree on that.
And of course you have the plan now. It will be discussed today, but to implement it, of course, that would be the big challenge.
Yes, of course, but first we need an agreement, and now is the first council, and I know they're also starting in Parliament with this work, so I'm happy to continue working close both with ministers and with Parliament to get this to a conclusion.
And just final question, when do you think we will have an agreement?
Of course, it's very difficult for me to say, but if there is political will, and I do think there is, I think there can be quite a swift process. But of course, it's up to the German presidency and the incoming Portuguese presidency to be responsible for the timetable.
The pressure is on. Ylva Johansson, Commissioner for Migration, thank you so much for speaking to us this morning on Good Morning Europe on Euronews.